What is up, tea people? Today, we're going to be talking a little bit about how I rate tea and how to rate tea. This is something that I have not done any research on. So this is going to be purely just how I think about it. And I'm really curious in the comments below if you guys want to let me know how you think about rating tea. It's especially relevant because, gosh, I think at this point I can share some of the news, which is that I have been working on an app for tea tasting that I'm really excited about. I don't know if I want to have it be invite only to start, but the app is trying to do a bunch of different things. I wanted to replicate the dashboard that I had that people seem to be pretty into. I wanted to set up a way of doing tea tastings, tracking my sessions, as well as make lists and reviews. Okay, so the way that I'm thinking about this app, and I'm going to start with this and then get into the rating, because I'm using and thinking about rating tea a lot by building this app, is sessions are going to be individual sessions. They can vary day by day for the same tea. You can maybe one tea is a 7 one day, an 8 another, and a 6 another. That's totally fine. You get different notes from different days. Some days your tea drinking is on, others it's not. And I'm going to talk about this tea a little bit as well. And then I also want to have lists of tea that or sessions or reviews for users to compile themselves. So these are my daily shung teas. This is what I, my daily driver ripe in the morning. Here are the specialties that I bring out for the nerds. Here's my favorite YQH teas that I've had so far. And so forth. This has been in my storage forever. This has been basically Seattle stored from the inception. I believe this is the Xiaoming tea factory, but it's not a special production, which is how I think last episode's Manjuan was produced. Xiaoming is a large tea factory, and then they do special productions. And so this is not, but this is Bulong material. I got this, I believe, literally at a Wajimaya in Seattle in 2009. And it has been hanging out in my dry storage since. It says Brown Mountain on it, it's Bulong, and we're gonna give it a shot. So this is kind of a deep cut. So sessions, individual sessions, lists to compile information for everybody, and then reviews, which are kind of more of a holistic. I'm going to pull these sessions to compile within one review body and maybe embed a YouTube video. That's already all exists today. You have a stash that you can then publish and keep private. So if you want to show certain teas in your stash to the public or not, you can do so. Same thing with sessions. Reviews and lists are always public. And that's the basic bones of it so far. Stash information is not sharing how much quantity of material you have or the price that you paid. Simply to say, I have this tea in my stash and I purchased it on this date. It's really fun. I'm having a blast building the app. So far, it is just James and I. You can follow other users and see a digest of other people's sessions if they're public or not, as well as if they've created a review, a list, or added a tea to their public tea collection, their stash. And so comment below and let me know. It's going to sound a little preposterous, but I want it to be kind of high level. I want the more advanced tea drinkers to be populating the site to start, so everyone can add custom teas, their own teas in their stash, and then we have admins who can approve teas as well as flavors. So lots to do still with the app, but I'm really excited. Okay, so long story to get into the fact that I've been thinking a lot about how to rate teas. And James and I have chatted about this a little bit. One thing I built into the app is both tier ratings, so the kind of like F through S tier ratings that you see in kind of like gamer terminology, and then also just simple 1 to 10 ratings. This does not include 8.2 to 8.3, etc. So I'm going to talk a little bit after this sip about how I think about rating my tea, and how to consolidate this information for the user base that I hope is developed inside of the app. So cheers. You know, it lacks a lot of the smokiness. Oh, there it goes. Really like a peppermint character on this. Low end fruit. A lot of yancha. Or sorry, yan like raw taste. And then a sweet top on it. Reboil this water. Definitely the long material is quite strong. And yeah. So how do I rate tea? I am inclined to think about tea as not as a logarithmic scale. Okay, so the sort of 6 range from 6.1, 6.2, 6.3, 6.4, 10% improvements up to 7. So it's a doubling of the quality of the tea. I don't think of it in that term. Oh, really nice sweetness coming. Instead, I think of teas more in the S tier through F tier ranking system. And so what I did actually in the app was translate tiers back down to numbers. So basically, you can have a mask in the settings to say I want to have my new session page show tiers versus numbers, and then you can mask the results and see that everything is in tiers or numbers, but everything boils down to numbers ultimately. So within a tea category, I kind of rank teas within that category. So even if, for example, I prefer Shangpuer more than green tea, I don't give all green teas a lower rating compared to Shangpuer. It's a relative rating to that relative category. So even if maybe a green tea is a 9 for me, it still might be in the sort of scope of my total enjoyment of tea. It might be a 7 out of all teas that I drink. But I do think of teas in categories. I do think of white tea, oolong teas, and then even within that category, I think of roasted oolong teas, wui oolong teas, and I'm ranking them within that sort of band. Okay, so that's the first sort of thing when I think of rating my tea, is that it is relative to the category of tea that I'm consuming, not relative to all teas ever. Okay, so that does mean, for example, that I give young Shang tea its own sort of system of rating and comparison compared to older material. Really kind of hitting the front of my head on this one. Nice oily resinous character to this. Cheers. Sweetness and a medicinal character that's not. This one's tasting really good today, actually. First time I had this recently, I was like, it's terrible. So I wanted to revisit it because I actually expected the session to be kind of bad, which is sort of the point. In the app, a lot of the teas that I've ranked so far are ranked pretty high because they're my daily drinkers and I really like them. Okay, so when I'm evaluating teas, they tend to have a higher likelihood of having a bigger distribution of values of rankings compared to my daily drivers that I really enjoy, I'm familiar with, and I daily drive them because I really like them. Those teas tend to be kind of like 7, 8, and sometimes 9s. Okay, now the question of, can you ever get to a true 10? What does a true 10 mean? What does a true S plus tier T mean? It's a little bit quixotic, right? Is it possible to get to a 10? I think so, but I think it's extremely rare, and it kind of needs to represent maybe a bell curve of values where teas sort of fall within a lot of cinnamon, red hot candy kind of a thing on that too. Interesting. Teas kind of fall within a distribution curve that looks roughly like a bell curve, right? Where hopefully most of those teas sort of sit in that like 6, 7, 8 range. And then getting into 9 and then 10 is pretty uncommon. Hopefully, I'm also not drinking teas that are 5s, 4s, 3s, 2s, 1s. So while those are options in on the site, which I have yet to announce, sorry, they are pretty rare for me at this point. Usually I'm able to just avoid those entirely. But I have had a couple of teas ranked 4 so far in evaluation. Really nice lasting sweetness. Going back in. Cheers. Yeah. That cinnamon candy character is really strong on this tea. Leaves space for a nice bassy deepness. Using about 4 grams of leaf, 4.5 grams of leaf, 51 milliliter gallon. Pretty strong here. Quite astringent. Lots of space for a high noted sweetness. Kind of saccharine sweet. Wouldn't describe it as flavorful necessarily, just more like sweet. Nice. So I personally think that when I think of the difference between 8.2 and 8.3, I think that for myself at least, I couldn't describe that being so obviously different. I think it's maybe the nuance of having literally 100 points of difference might just be too much in my case. So, up to 10, 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 5, count them all down, 100 values. I couldn't tell you that I could fine tooth comb pick that. I think that's more me just filling in filling in a level of accuracy and exactness that I personally don't possess. Now, others might, right? You might really feel like you understand subjectively what the difference is between an 8.2 and an 8.3, and it's just pretty obvious. My palate's not that smart. So no shade on anyone who does that, but I don't think the app is going to facilitate people doing that. I had originally set it to values out of 100 and found that it was just kind of meaningless ultimately. And then also to just show some really cool, pretty graphs, rating distributions, and all the data and stuff. It makes sense to have values be 1 through 10. Okay, so I think that covers a lot of the way that I think about rating tea ultimately. I think about it within its own category. I think about values that are mostly frankly, I'm kind of picking like 5 values. Either it's like bad, it's okay, it's fine, it's pretty good, it's quite good, wow, it's amazing, oh my god, this is one of the most incredible teas I've ever had. And I think that rating system goes F, and then I think it goes F, and then D, C, B, A plus, S, S plus. So if you hit an F, technically we're coding that as a 3. Some broth on this now, a little umami actually. That cinnamon note is so strong on this tea, really interesting. The only complaint on this tea today, at least, is it's pretty one noted. It's really quite cinnamony, but not so much else. Wild. One of the stranger things to have tea that is purely aged in Seattle. Couldn't tell you what Seattle storage tastes like, but this is probably the best example of it that I have on hand. Although actually I do have a 2009 8582 cake that is also worth comparing to this. So within category, thinking mostly in tiers, it's how I have my app set to default in terms of the values that I pick. And then, teas that really wow me are teas that I get an S tier, an S or an S plus, right? Teas that I think are awesome are kind of in the A's category. B's are teas that are good. C's, it's fine. I'm happy to drink it. And then D, definitely wouldn't be passing the speed test, and I'm not reaching for it at all. And then below that, it's bad. It's like, no, this was kind of gross. I'm giving up halfway through the session. I have no interest in continuing to drink it, even for evaluation. That's kind of how I think about teas at this point. The number ratings for me feel a little fuzzier for some reason than tiered ratings. Whatever. Again, if I had to kind of go through and order tier by tier, I think I could do that a little bit easier than number by number. That's just me. I'm really curious to see in the comments below. Please let me know how you think about rating tea. Are you drinking tea for evaluation most of the time when you're thinking about the tea that you're drinking, even just as a daily brew? Are you thinking about rating it? One thing that's interesting about the app is that I'm recording every session as a public session within the my account. You can see on my public profile, and so that does sort of force me to kind of get a little bit more specific about teas that I would be drinking a bit more casually, frankly, in not thinking as much, ooh, am I getting plum or is it more, apricot on this or whatever, right? Nothing wrong with that. Frankly, having the interface, which inside of the app, everything is pretty much optional except for the rating. So you can literally only have the tea name and the rating and have every other field possible be optional. But having fields for all the tastes, which I don't have saltiness, I do have astringency though. So the tastes would be sweet, bitter, astringent, umami, and sourness. Body feel, those are going to be the way that affects the mouth, throat, tongue, chest, cooling and warming, the viscosity of the tea, and then the kind of energy that you get from the tea, is it relaxing or invigorating. And then lots of flavor notes, so you can pick through tons and tons of flavors with their kind of parent and sub-parent categories. And then an actual field for tasting notes specifically, like, blah, 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 and typing in this information. So that's how I built the app so far. I'd be really curious to hear below in the comments, how do you think about rating tea? Do you rate every tea session that you drink, no matter what? What about your casual brews, your daily drivers, your first tea of the day? My ripes in the morning, I'm not as astute of a drinker. Certainly, I'm waking up and kind of using the tea as opposed to enjoying the tea. I still like to enjoy those sessions, definitely. But I know I'm not as strong of a drinker for that first ripe session. I need to wake up for an hour or so before I'm really experiencing the tea really well. And which is one reason why I do delay my tea a little bit in the morning. So one more session or one more sip here. Let me get into the color here. Actually for Seattle store tea, frankly, this is actually done pretty well. Really nice brown sugar sweetness hanging out in my mouth now. Cheers. Red hot candy, deep resinous wood, high brown sugar sweetness. Pine. Surprisingly good. Surprisingly good. What would I give this? I think it could be surprisingly good for for what it is. I mean specifically. So I'm gonna go actually and log this one in the app right now. And again, comment below and let me know what how you think about rating tea. Do you think about all teas across all categories? In which case, are you giving unfair bias against certain teas that aren't your favorite teas? How do you think about teas within a certain category? How specific of a category do you get into? Do you consider all shung tea one sort of category, or does it get to something like Wui oolongs versus high mountain Taiwanese oolongs versus low mountain summer Oriental beauty teas? What about how teas kind of feel like hybrids between Oriental beauty and a black tea or things like that? So how are you thinking about tea in general? For me, I try to sort of bring take away the cross category bias as much as I can. Think about, okay, I'm drinking a black tea. How do I think about this black tea in comparison to other black teas that I've had? Do I really enjoy this tea, period? Is it exceptional? How's the quality? Is there anything off? Is it cohesive? All the things that I've talked about over and over again for years now, just trying to kind of boil it down to some simple terms. So I'd be curious, again, how do you guys think about tea? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this rambling video, subscribing and doing all the clicking on the buttons and all those things. Let me know if you would like to be invited to this tea tasting app that I am building. And until next time, peace.